This is not a green screen, this is the quilt. This is Carrie with Canary Quilts, and we are finally done with our Sunshine, Tula Pink Sunshine Daydream Quilt. This was a mix of piecing and paper piecing, and I think it took us around 9 weeks to break it down, and we finally got to the point that we put it together. That's what we do today. We take all these pieces we've spent all this time, and it's basically just rings. We've built rings every week and put them together today. So look at that. That is stunning. So today, like my title says, it's all about the fours. And you'll find out as we go along and put all these rings together what I mean about it's all about the fours. It makes it really easy to put it together. They do a very good job of telling you how to line it up. So it fit. That's gonna amaze me till the end of time, that everything fits. The farther out we go in a quilt, everything fit. So I'm really happy about that too. I don't know why. It should fit, but it still amazes me that it does. But that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna put this together. Stick around with me. And watch how this goes together, see what I mean by it's all about the fours, and see how I kind of mix up my pressing. I don't exactly do what the pattern says, so see why I do it that way. And yeah, check out the links below. I've got this pattern and fabric kit down below if you like it and you want to give it a try. It's really not that hard. For the paper piecing, they're big pieces, and I show you exactly how to do it. It's one of the easier paper pieces I've done. So I think I'm gonna quilt this myself, and I may put up a short little video on how I did that. So hit the subscribe button, notification bell, and you'll get notified of all the other fun stuff we're doing here. And if you want to see how this turns out quilted, I've got another Tula Pink that we're starting to finish up, a quilt there, and lots of other fun stuff we're doing too. So check out the links. There's a thanks button down below if you like what you see. And yeah, let's get started. We're ready to put together our quilt. We're going to put the whole thing together, but we're going to start with the center circle and the ring around it is what we're going to start with here. So you need to pull those two pieces out, and you will need your template. And you want to make sure you get the template lined up on your center circle so that it's going right down the I'm putting it right down the center of my flamingos here. And then we're going to clip it. So now we want to come down here on our center circle, and these hash marks that we see on our pattern right here, we need to put them onto our fabric. And I'm using a pen, friction pen that erases with heat. So you want to come in and you want to mark those quarter marks. Just like that. So now we don't need the template anymore. Set that aside, and then you'll want to grab your ring and pull all the papers off the back of it. I've already done that. I just did it. I keep the papers on the back until the end to keep my seams in place, so that by moving this around over the course of the last 8 weeks or so, these seams don't get moved or pulled or anything. So I just took my papers off. And I'm going to take our ring here. And what I want to do first is lay it out. So it looks to me like at the bottom of our flamingo circle, there's about 3 dark triangles on the left side. So that's how I want my ring to sit also. Okay, so what we need to do is, so this is going to be the point that I align down here with this mark. So I'm going to flip it over And I'm just going to use the point right here and line it up with my mark and pin it. So we have right sides together. So I'm going to go to my next quarter and I'm going to count 6 points, these green points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the 6th one is going to line up with this quarter mark over here. Going to turn it again, count 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Line this up with this quarter mark. And on the last one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And line it up on this quarter mark. And we should have 6 left of this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we do. Okay, so what we need to do is start easing this in. And I should have enough clips to pin every single seam. Okay, there we go. I got every point clipped down. So it's gonna look roughly like that when we get done. So let me get my machine set up and we can sew this together. We're just gonna slowly start sewing, making sure the edges stay together, and should go together pretty good. There's our first section done. That turned out great. So I ironed towards this center section right here, and it worked. I didn't need to do any clips, so that worked out great. We're going to take ring 2, which is this one. We got to pull all the papers off, and then we're going to add it to what we just did. So I'm going to take the time to take these papers off, and then we will come back and do another circle on circle. Okay, to get started putting our ring 2 onto ring 1, we need to find our I and J seam, which is between this yellow and this green right here. So I'm going to mark that with a pin. So we're going to be doing the inside of this ring to the outside of this ring. So we need to find the top. Here's our top. And we want to take that I and J seam that I just marked. And I put the 2 seams on either side together and I made a crease. So we're going to take the I and J seam, we're going to flip it over so we're on that inner part of the ring, and I'm going to put that seam right on that crease. And we're going to turn it. We're going to count 1, 2, 3, and I put a seam in this one too, just by taking those 2 seams, putting them together, creasing it, and then we're going to take the next I and J, which is the yellow and green right here, and we're going to pin it with the seam and the crease together. And we're going to go all the way around and do the exact same thing on every 3. 1, 2, 3. So every third teal has this pin to it, this same fabric seam, I and J. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pin in between each one of these pins so I can ease these in together, and then we'll be ready to sew. I got it all sewn on. I haven't ironed it yet. Looks good. It's weird, that outer ring gives me the feel of like working with ruffles from way back in my clothes making days. So what we need to do is iron towards this ring right here. So you're just going to have to be really careful doing that. So let's give this a try. You got future Carrie here for a minute, because the perils of only getting one chance to do this is, I guess I didn't hit record when I did ring 3. And ring 3 is what I call the butterfly ring. It started down here with the gray, and then it came up and ended with a butterfly. So like you've got the gray and comes up here. So we're going to be attaching this ring onto the ring we just did right here. And I'm going to show you how to do that. I can do that even though I have the quilt together. So I'm going to do that right now. Okay, remember when we had to line up our I and J fabrics in ring 2 with the top of our motif down here? So you are going to find that again right here, these I and J fabrics. That is the top of our quilt. So now you want to take your ring 3, and I had it, I know it's sewn now, but it wasn't sewn when I did it before. I had it laid out just like this, because you're going to have to take your fabric J right here in ring 3 and line it up with that seam right there. So this will be, the top of your quilt will be this right here. Our green fruit fabric is going to be lined up right here with the top of the quilt. So then what you do is, now that you found that, you just take that seam right here between I and J, and you line up the seam from fabric J right here in ring 3. You line those up and you pin it. Just like that. And this is where the 4s come in, because you're going to take your next point, and this is, I'm talking this, it's where the gray and the template 3 diamond meet. So you've got these 2 grays that come down, so this is your next point. You're going to count 4 fabrics over. So 1, 2, 3, 4, that's the seam you want. And you're going to pin your seam coming down here to that 4th fabric. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Line it up with the seam and pin it. There we go. Okay, I'm ready to head over to my machine and put this humongous ring 3 on. I've attached it to ring 2. Ring 2 is pretty small, but it's in there. And I showed you where to start attaching this, which I think is actually right here, with this J fabric and then the IJ fabric from ring 2, and you match your seams up. And then what you do is you go along the entire part of the gray to the next seam and find the next 4th seam. So every 4 seams, you'll attach your gray at that seam. So we'll go along 4 more seams on ring 2, attach your gray, match those seams. So you're going to do that all the way around, and then I came back and I pinned in between all of these. So I'm going to go over to my machine and I'm going to do a 1/4 inch. So I'm ready to put this in, and I should have mentioned in the first few rings that when you're sewing this to put needle down as you're sewing it, because it'll make it easier to work with your fabric and you're not pulling it away from your 1/4 inch seam. So needle down in your machine with your 1/4 inch foot and you should get a good seam all the way around. Okay, got it sewn on. I've been sitting here looking at it and it says to press it towards ring 2. I'm personally not liking that decision. I feel like it really wants to, there's not going to be any matching seams, it's already on. So I'm feeling like it really wants to lay this way. Plus, this means that these two seams will be ironed away from each other, which sets this ring apart. Where if it's ironed this way and then it's ironed this way, it kind of makes that ring pop up and not really set it apart. And see how hard it is to get it to lay down? It just really wants to lay this way. Look out there, Butters. So I am going to iron towards ring 3 personally. So you can follow the pattern or you can follow my lead, but that's why I am ironing towards ring 3. I think that ring 2 would look better with its seams ironed away from it. It's small and it'll set it apart. I really think it'll set it apart. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to iron away from ring 2 towards ring 3. He needed to help me. Or he thinks he needed to help me. Right, Bubbers? We are on to ring 4. So this is just like ring 2, except bigger. So first thing we got to do, pull the paper off. So I'm going to do that, come back, and we'll see how we put it onto our quilt. So start pulling the paper off. And meet you back here when we're done. Get my bag out for trash. Okay, I got my paper pulled off of ring 3, and you need to find your I and J fabrics again, which was this yellow and this green right here. So I'm going to put a clip right there on that seam, and this is the inside. It's hard to tell, but that is the inside of my ring right there. So you need to find these fabrics, I and J, anywhere on here, doesn't matter where, just anywhere, and mark them because that's the seam we're going to start with. So you'll come down here to the quilt, and this is the top of the quilt because here's my flamingos. They're facing the correct way. So we're going to come up here and here's our I and J seam. And what we want to do is from our I and J seam right here, we're going to come up here to this butterfly because this butterfly lines up with the I and J seam in ring 2. So that's the butterfly we want. I'm going to fold it, line up the seams, fold it, put a crease in it so I can find the center of that butterfly. So I have a crease. I'm taking, I gotta turn it around. This is my I and J seam I showed you right here. This is the inside of my ring. And I'm gonna line that seam up with the crease of that butterfly. So that's the first thing we're gonna do. So we've got our ring lined up with our butterfly here. And I just showed you how to do that. Now you're going to find on the very opposite side of ring 4, yeah, this is ring 4, the same fabric, I and J, and you're going to clip the inside of that one also. So this is the opposite side of ring 4. Now we need to turn our quilt around so that we have the bottom of our quilt over here. So here's the bottom of our quilt. There's my flamingos. There's my I and J from before. I'm going to follow this right up to this butterfly right here. I'm going to make a crease in that butterfly so I know the center. Okay, so here's my I and J fabric. This was the clip that showed that this was the opposite side of my ring. And I'm going to line the seam up with that crease in the butterfly. So we now have a clip on this side of our quilt on the bottom, and then we also have one up here at the top. So now we have two halves that we have to put together. And here's the top. So the rest of this needs to be put together. So let me show you how to do that. So every butterfly section of ring 3 has a seam on either end. So the first one we're going to do, we're just going to go 2 seams over from ring 4 and align it with the edge of that butterfly seam. And then we're going to do the same over here. So what we can do now is just go to the next butterfly seam, 1, 2, 3, 4, and align those up. So there will always be 4 sections of ring 4 with a butterfly. And then what we're going to do is we're going to line up these seams, butterfly, with 4 sections of this, and then we're going to come back and I'm going to pin in between. So I'm going to get this all pinned, I'm going to fill it in, and then we'll come back and take a look at it as best we can. Each butterfly section gets 4 fabric sections from ring 4. And line up the seams from each. Okay, I have got everything pinned together, and I pinned at every single seam in ring 4. So we are ready to sew this together. 1/4 inch here, needle down while you're doing it, and just sew all the way around, come back. They do want you to press against or towards ring 3 in this one, so that's good. And also in the next step, they're going to have you press away. So good. We're going to press away from this ring for both times here. So, whew, I'm going to start sewing on this, and let's get this ring on. Woo! Right. We got ring 4 on. And we're going to iron towards the butterflies. Okay, let's iron towards the butterflies. That's how it wants to go anyway. That's how the pattern tells us to do it, so that's what we are doing. The next thing we want to do before we start putting our outer border on is find the top of your quilt, again using the flamingos. Work your way up the top until you get to the IJ fabric, which we've been working with all along, this yellow and this green, and mark it. This is the top of the quilt. You want to do the exact same thing with the bottom and the 2 sides with the I and J fabric, and I've already done it and it's not hard to do. I have the 4/4 of this outer ring 4 marked. So now we're going to take our outside fabric, our outside border. So we've got these outside corners, and as you move along one edge to the other corner, it gets most narrow right here. These are our 2 template 6 fabrics. So that is the seam you want, is between the 2 template 6s that you put together. So you want to make sure you've got your ring part, which is down here. You want your ring down here to line up with this is the inside of your border here. And you want to line that seam up and this seam. And look at that, it nests together. Those two seams nest. Your I and your J and your 2 6s, the gray and the green. So your gray and green 6s nest with ring 6s, ring 4s, yellow and green I and J fabrics. So there you go. You're going to do that at all those marks we made, the quarter marks we made around the circle. So here's our next quarter mark with our I and J fabrics and our 2 6s. And we're going to put those together. So we're putting the outside border in quarters onto this. And again, the seams nest. Awesome. So I'm going to get all 4 of these put together. Make sure your fabric doesn't get twisted. So the nice thing, one nice thing about this pattern is they figured everything out per every 4 fabrics on ring 4. So ring 4, you're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4 fabrics, match it up with the next seam right here. And that one does not nest. That's okay. And again, 1, 2, 3, 4 matches the next seam. That one nests. Good. We'll mark that. And again, 1, 2, 3, 4 matches up with this seam. And we'll pin that, and we're going to do that all the way around. So again, every 4 fabrics will match a seam on this ring. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to pin in between each of the pins that I'm putting in right now. So let me get this monstrosity pinned up and then we'll come back. Okay, I've gone around and pinned every seam, and the pattern actually tells you to do that on this one. I did it last time, but it tells you to do it on this one. So pin every seam right here all the way around, and then oh my god, we're gonna be done. Can you believe that? We'll be done. We're gonna sew this and we're gonna iron towards this green and black border. So, but guess what? I gotta go get a haircut, so I can't start this right now. So when I finish this, I'm gonna look different. I don't know if it's good or bad, but I'll look different. So I gotta go get a haircut, and I'm gonna go, then I'm gonna come back and finish this. All right, I needed a haircut pretty bad. And a hairdo. We did it. It is sewn on. I've got to iron it. We're gonna iron it towards the border here, and then we get to see the whole thing laid out. So let's get to work. All right, here's our border. And we're going to iron towards the border. Which it naturally just wants to lay that way. Well, there she is, all done. Turned out great. I'm trying to hold it up, but Hurricane Nicole's winds are a little too much. But anyway, you get to see it. This was a lot of fun to put together. It went together real well. I appreciate you following along on this journey with me. Stick around and you can see how it gets quilted and see what it looks like. But hit the subscribe button, notification bell, and when I do put it up when it's quilted, you'll be able to see it. You'll get to do all the other fun stuff we have around here. There's a thanks button down below also if you're interested in checking that little button out, and check out the links also. I have a link to the quilt and the pattern, which come together down below also. So, thank you very much. And I had a lot of fun making this video. Obviously, I have a lot of fun trying to lay this quilt out. It's pretty hard in the wind. But I'll see you in the next one. Bye.